So, hold on, I gotta get my voicemails. Just to get straight into it, can you kind of just tell me about the year Kennesaw's had so far before conference play?
Yeah, KSU sits at 2-2. You got Wake Forest in week one. Played them down to the wire, lost that game 10-9. Probably end up winning that game if you make a couple of kicks that they missed in the first half. You go to Indiana. I think everybody in the country knows how good Indiana is now. That one didn't go super well. I think that one was 56-9. They came back home, hosted Merrimack, an FCS opponent, took care of business there. It was 27-13, but maybe wasn't as close as the score would indicate. And then got a big win last week against Arkansas State, also at home. So they've won two straight. And as we've talked about on our podcast, if you had told anybody in the Kennesaw State world that football would be starting 2-2 to start the season, they would take it in a heartbeat. So a lot of optimism right now. A lot of I feel that the program's in the right place, and a chance to improve to 3-2 and have a winning record for the first time in a couple of years this Saturday.
So, what can you tell me about Jerry Mack?
Yeah, Jerry Mack's been all over the place as an assistant coach. He's been a head coach. Spent, I want to say, 5 years at North Carolina Central, an FCS program out in North Carolina, obviously. Won a lot of games, won the MEAC regular season title a couple of times, went to the Celebration Bowl a couple of times, spent some time on staff with Josh Heupel at Tennessee, which is where a lot of his assistants and his offensive coordinator, most importantly, made that connection with him. He was the running backs coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars previously, so he's got experience at the NFL. He's got experience as an OC. He's got experience as a position coach, all over the country at the college level. So he's been around a lot. And the thing that jumped out about him when we hired him is the guy's a winner. Like I said, in his time at Arkansas, or not at Arkansas State, at NC Central, the guy won a lot of football games, and I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to hiring a coach is their success, no matter what level that they were at.
And kind of backtracking to last year, because I very vividly remember the MTSU Kennesaw matchup because it was some of the most awful football I've ever watched outside of a couple big special teams plays. But what went wrong with last year's team and that staff, and then even the whole Indeed debacle?
Oh God. Well, I'm glad you brought up last year's game. I made that trip up from Kennesaw to go to that game, cover that game.
Oh man.
It was so bad it had me questioning if I was in the right industry. I'm not even kidding. I was it dented my love for football just a little bit. It was that bad. Um yeah, what went wrong last year? Financially, the program was not in a place to be successful, and that's the short answer. Bohannon, the previous coach, was not given the resources needed to succeed. And he struggled, and there were a million things that were going against him. And when he got fired, it's not that people necessarily disagreed with the decision. There was a level of angst and a level of, people were ready to move on. And, thanks for all your hard work, coach. Thanks for the success you brought us at the FCS level, but we need to move into a new era here. And there was a lot of that. And then the athletic director comes out, says that Bohannon stepped down. Bohannon claps back on Twitter, says that he didn't step down, he was fired. And then, the school gets all sorts of negative press. It's just a mess, I'm right in the center of it. It was not fun. It was a chaotic time. They posted the job on Indeed, which I don't know if you know this. A lot of people didn't know this. That's a legal requirement, apparently. Like I
Oh,
think any public school would have to do that, but for whatever reason, ours surfaced. That's what I was told. Maybe it's a state of Georgia thing. I'm not going to pretend to know all the legal logistics and all that, but that was my understanding of it. So like nobody was going to be a serious candidate who applied on Indeed. They hired a search firm actually several weeks before they fired Bohannon. But yeah, it was a mess. The roster, just the personnel, was not good enough to compete at the FBS level, and it showed. And I tell people all the time the fact that they found a way to win two games with the team they had last year is really impressive.
so jumping forward to last week. kind of looking at the quarterback situation for Kennesaw, especially if you just the little glimpse at the preseason Conference USA stuff. It seems like Dexter Williams was the guy, and then I look up and Amari Odom's throwing for 300 and running for 100. What can you tell me about that situation?
Yeah, it's interesting. Dexter was the investment. Dexter was the guy who got some money to come to school. He was sort of made the face of the program in the early season. The department did a like mini documentary, like a day in the life thing on Dexter Williams. So he was supposed to be the guy. That was always the understanding. I mean, he had a huge donation from the guy the field is named after, and a chunk of that money. I don't know the exact number, and I'm not going to speculate, but went to Dexter to bring him in and just solidify the quarterback position after it was really a point of struggle last season. Dexter wins the starting job. It was announced by Pete Thamel, who's one of the bigger college football reporters. And when it happens, we were all like, okay, well, water is wet. It was no surprise. We knew Odom had come in. There was another quarterback, Ulatowski, who came in from Kent State. And Odom, it was like a family friend of Coach Mac's son. So it was like, let's bring him in for depth. And that was our understanding of why you brought Odom in, because he started a couple games at Wofford. I think he started about half the season at Wofford last year. Wasn't very good, in the Southern Conference. Comes in the spring and just looks awful, to put it simply, in the spring. Like it, we all thought he was going to be QB3, QB2 at best, maybe behind Ulatowski, the kid from Kent State. And then before the season, Matt goes on the record and says Odom has made leaps and bounds from the spring to the fall like we've never seen before. And we're all kind of like, well, he's just trying to gas up his guy, whatever, whatever. Dexter comes out, doesn't play super well in the weight game, but it's also like how critically can you judge against a Power Four opponent? He gets the start at Indiana, his former school, only gets 2 series, gets pulled. Odom comes in, does some really nice things, and afterwards, Max says the plan was always to rotate guys, just get Odom some work. Sure. Against Merrimack, they split series basically the whole game. Odom clearly just looks like the better quarterback. And then against Arkansas State, Odom gets the start and lights the world on fire, other than the 3 fumbles. But certainly been a pleasant surprise. Definitely unexpected, but he's looked really good.
Can you give me some players to watch this week? Because I mean, outside of the big headline for Odom, it's kind of going in a little dark.
Sure. Offensively, Gabe Benyard is in the middle of what could be a really big season for him. A season where he could put up the numbers to maybe get a chance at the next level. I think he's had 200 plus yard receiving games. He's got a couple of touchdowns. Really, really fast wide out, sort of a smaller wide out. He was actually brought in as sort of a running back wide out hybrid, but they've moved him outside just to, I guess, maximize his ability. Christian Moss is a really solid wide receiver too, and there's not a lot of drop off between wide receiver one and wide receiver two. And then Lyndon Rivar at wide receiver three has been pretty solid as well. So, there's not like one guy that the defense can hyper focus on. They all kind of create opportunities for each other. I think the receiving room is really the one to watch. Coleman Bennett and Alexander Diggs, if Diggs is healthy, in the running back room, have been solid, just bruisers almost. Diggs is a little bit more, shifty, step between the tackles kind of play style, and Bennett's gonna run a guy over. Defensively, Barron Hobson is all over the field. He had 14 tackles against Arkansas State. Caleb Offord, a cornerback who transferred in during the offseason, has had a really nice year. Made some really nice plays against Indiana, going one-on-one with Elijah Surratt. Um, Donovan Westmoreland, Marcus Patterson, two big boys on the defensive line. They've had big years. That whole front as a unit has had a great season so far. And they run, 2 or 3 units deep. So we've all been really excited about that. And uh, yeah, I mean, I could go on. I could name you the whole roster, but I'm not going to pretend like they're elite everywhere. I mean, they're 2-2, and we're just riding high, I guess.
So the last thing I've got for you is can I get a score prediction? And please don't make it 14-5 because we're driving down there on Saturday. And if it's 14-5, it's yeah.
God, I actually will not be at the game, unfortunately. It's a rare missed game for me. Um, I think it'll be better than 14-5. This Kennesaw State team is miles ahead of where it was last year. Um, I think I think the spread's about right. I think KSU is about an 8.5 point favorite. Um, I still think that because of the implementation of this up-tempo offense, you're going to see a lot of mistakes from Kennesaw State, and I think MTSU is going to find themselves forcing a couple of turnovers, and this one will stay pretty close. But I see something around the lines of 24-14. MTSU's offense has not impressed me all that much.
You're not the only one.
So.
Well, I appreciate your time, Kai, and thank you so much, man.